behalf of the Work Better Now team, I'd like to welcome everybody to Working Better Now, which features a great discussion with a business leader. And today we're thrilled to be joined by Matthew Tritt, founder of Greenlight Consulting and Management. Matt, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Matt, tell us a little bit about Greenlight.
Okay, Greenlight Consulting is a boutique owner's rep construction firm, project management, with a focus on ground up construction, building facades, large commercial fit outs, and stalled sites, project rescues.
Gotcha. And is it all commercial?
It's all commercial, correct.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to starting Greenlight, and when did you start it?
So I started Greenlight in 2008, coming out of that financial crisis. But I got into construction much earlier, around 2001. I had actually gone to film school and had aspirations to be a filmmaker and a producer of movies and film. And I had actually succeeded enough to have a short film I took to the Cannes Film Festival in France. And I had, as a 22-year-old, thought that was my career about to take off. And unfortunately, I learned the hard way that didn't happen, and nobody cared. I didn't have the juice to keep doing that. I needed to get to work. And so my cinematographer had a brother in construction, and that was my first introduction to the world of construction. I started off sweeping sites, moved up the ladder, and eventually became a senior project manager with that firm. And then after I went on my own and opened my shingle Greenlight Construction, which I loved. The aspects of film and production and working with very wide, diverse teams on tight schedules and budgets to create something that you could point to and appreciate and really love. And the service to that common goal was something I really loved. When I got, construction checked a lot of those boxes. So really just sort of grabbed the bull by the horns and dove into it. And at-risk construction worked for me for a while. And then eventually it didn't. And I actually wanted to move to the ownership side of the table. I felt that there was a lot of owners that were having a hard time with their contractors or with the process in general, and just a lack of understanding that process. And I thought, as somebody who just loves the service industry and helping people who, get into these situations, I just thought my skill set, just my personality fit with that paradigm. So becoming an owner's rep and really, helping people get through the myriad issues and solve these very high leverage problems is something that I've been doing solely since about 2014.
Awesome. It's interesting. You compared construction to film, and the exact same connection went on in my head. These are two things that I think from the outside in seem like gargantuan tasks, and I've known a few other filmmakers too, and I know how big of a project it is to get a film done. So many moving parts, and to me, construction is very similar. Although I guess when you do it long enough, it's just what you do. But both of those things to me are marvels.
No, it's one of those things you stand on the outside and you're like, I don't know how this happens. And it's just amazing to be on the inside making that happen. Film is just an absolute insane business. And in some ways, New York City ground up construction is as well. It's not rational. The amount of problems being solved on a daily basis. I used to joke with homeowners about the hardest process of renovating. I don't do, residential construction, but I said, the hardest part is the millions of decisions that you have to make that you don't even think about. That's the bandwidth that this job comes with. So it's insane, but we love it.
Yeah. So, being an owner's rep, although I guess the same applies to construction when you're doing the actual construction, as you said, lots of problems, lots of decisions. To what extent do you have a framework in dealing with problems and decisions? Because that's essentially a big part of what you do. How do you scale that? How do you grow that?
So, I mean, no pun intended, but being able to see the movie before it happens, is a huge part of the framework. Right. And just getting so many reps. I mean, I've done, hundreds of projects at this point, and just having all those reps at different levels of the project process enables me to sort of play the movie, and then I'm able to create a framework for that specific individual or client or project, and then kind of put people on the right path to success. And the other really big component of it is really having a value system and being able to always kind of go to that core value system. And for us, it's the number one is connecting with people. If you don't understand the problem, the very unique issues, I mean, it could be anything. For, sometimes it's people are just overwhelmed. They might have a million project management issues, but their real issue is that they're incredibly overwhelmed, right? And so, and be able to take that overwhelm and solve that for them. And yes, of course, we write great memos and do schedules and budgets and all that stuff, but really it's about, finding out what that issue is, and being able to connect with people is, for us, our number one. I guess that's our secret sauce, is being able to get to the heart of the issues and then just solve those things really well.
Yeah, you can say that it's no longer a secret, but the secret is not, that's not the secret. The secret is how you do that, and comes with
Absolutely.
a lot of at bats. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I asked you about a framework or a process, and you referred to one of your core values. We're very big on core values here. So your core value is a big part of your success, or at least one of your core values. I'm sure the others are too. A
It's
big part of
everything.
your secret sauce, in a
Yeah.
way.
It's
Yeah.
everything. I mean, everything gets filtered through that. It's what gets us up in the morning. It's why we do what we do. And it's that intention that the clients ultimately feel of, okay, these people understand we're not a commodity. That's why I always say we're a boutique firm, right? We're not just throwing PMs at problems and just throwing bodies at things. We're a boutique firm, so we're going a little deeper to get to the heart of it. And then, between connection, integrity, and dependability, it's those three things. And with those sort of, that's our structure, and everything gets filtered through it. And like I said, we do all the schedules and the budgets and the tracking, and we do have, the relationships with all of the suppliers and the trades and the architects and the engineers, and on staff, and also third party strategic partners. But nobody ever hired us because we wrote a great budget,
Right.
right? So there's obviously something to be said for that. That's what's driving our growth right now. That's why our phone are ringing, is because of those things. And so, we've been, thankfully, in the last 2 years and 3 years, we've been doubling in size each year. The team has completely bought into those values, and I hire, fantastic people on the project management level. But as long as they adhere to really what the green light way is, we're going to be successful, I think.
Gotcha. Makes sense. How many project managers do you have?
Right now, we're about 8.
What's the process like? What you said in terms of building rapport and all of that other stuff, that comes intuitive to you based on experience and a bunch of other things. How did you go about training, those 8 PMs on the green light way?
Great question. Well, it started with a very specific and intentional interview process. Everybody that we interview has to go through a culture questionnaire, and which questions that I've, written myself with my own coaches, my own business coaches, and we create those questions very specifically around the person as a whole, not just their education or project management, but as a person. And that's an extremely important part. And then we also have 3 assessments, multiple choice assessments, that everybody does. And then, so by the time, between the resume, the work, and those types of things, I feel like by the time we make that hire, they're already primed for this experience. And then at that point, we sit down, we go through how I, organize my projects, those core values. I mean, and by constantly communicating and rehashing and reaffirming these things, and I do that in different ways, just through internal dialogue. I don't micromanage, but I am always calling people to check in to see if they're okay, to make sure that if they have a problem that they need me to help with. At the end of the day, as I grow and I move a little bit out of the project management trenches, I still love solving problems. I just want to upgrade my problems.
I was just on a podcast before, which is, every time we hit another, stage, it's not like the challenges go away. They're just
Yeah.
different. It sounds like your approach is very people oriented. And it sounds like you built, I don't know if you know Jack Daly, amazing speaker.
Yeah, he is amazing. I don't know him, but I've seen him speak a couple times. But
So Jack talks about, building a culture by design, which was in the back of my head and Andrew's head when we started Work Better Now. And that's exactly really, it sounds like you did more than build a culture by design. It sounds like you knew when you started the business, probably based on the construction experience and maybe even some of the film work, you knew that the key to your success, the differentiator for you, was going to be in these core values and having people that bought into those core values. And then the rest almost doesn't take care of itself, but a lot of it does.
Dialing in that structure and that other framework that maybe you were referring to earlier is something that we still do, and it's still extremely important. And as you grow, those systems, they need to change, right, based on the growth. And as you grow, things constantly change, right? But that's okay as long as you always have those core values and you understand that identity. And that's what everybody always comes back to as a North Star. All those changes and all those processes that you solve, it's all doable when everybody comes to the table with the right energy and the right attitude to do it because they really care about this place. And I think that translates to the clients every time because we care. Now we're very service oriented, and in a service business, it has to be about the people, and it has to be about helping others and putting them before you. I mean, that's really at the end of the day the most important part of what we do.
And I love what you said, which is you're checking in with your people to make sure they're okay, because if they're not okay, it's going to be very hard for them to be okay for your clients. And of course, when they are
Right.
okay, then they can be their exceptional selves.
Exactly.
It seems so simple.
It is. It took me a long time
I
to
know.
see
I've
that.
been there.
In fact, I wish I had understand some of these things when I was in film or in my early days of construction, but better late than never.
Yeah, I always say that the best time to have learned that would have been 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. I'm with you. You have a remote professional from Work Better Now, Sarah. She's been
Yeah.
with you, I believe, for close to a year.
Over.
Over a year.
Well,
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the experience and how Sarah's doing.
it started off through the same process that I just described with the culture questions and the assessments. And I was so surprised that Work Better Now indulged me in that process. It was something that I was a little nervous about. Sarah, checked all the boxes from that value perspective. My expectations were sort of unsure, and I wasn't really sure. I was kind of awkwardly trying to figure out like how this was going to work. And I just sort of leaned in. And, I have to say, I can't even imagine not having Sarah with me right now. It's actually scary to think about that I rely on her so much. And she's so incredibly helpful with a big component of my project. And everybody who talks to her or communicates by email or Zoom, I just hear the best things. And that is a reflection on me and the company. I'm just incredibly grateful that I found her. And, interestingly, when I was seeking to hire somebody, I talked to a friend of mine in the engineering and architecture world in New York City who was growing very, very quickly. And I said, I'm also growing quite quickly. And I wanted to know what my next hire should be, because in my mind, I needed to hire another project manager or a senior PM or an APM. And he said to me, hire an EA. And I'm like, but no, I need to manage projects. I'm a project manager. That's not going to help me. And he's like, hire an EA. He said, I thought the same way. And I wish I could go back in time and make that my first hire. I didn't know intuitively why. I just knew that I respected this person as a mentor and as somebody who I saw really succeed. And so I just did. And now I get it, because the bandwidth that Sarah helped create for me to think through so many of the problems, those high leverage problems that I need the time and the bandwidth to think through. She's created that time for me by doing all of the stuff that, while I'm probably good at, I don't like doing. And most of it I'm not good at. and she's really good at it and enjoys it. It's really amazing at how much she's helped us take that next step. And then since hiring Sarah, I've hired another 4 or 5 PMs. It's one of those things that I don't know that I would have gotten to that point had I not brought her on when I did. So for me, it was like a real gating issue for me was freeing up my time. And I didn't even realize it because, you get stuck in the world in the trenches, and it's hard to step back and see like, oh, your real problem is that you're just constantly doing nonsense things that aren't helping you grow your business.
It's not that they're nonsense. They're just not high value. They're not as high impact.
Right.
They have to get done, right? But it sounds like Sarah's helped you, which, by the way, this is music to our ears. This is what we live for, right? She has enabled you to really grow the business, perhaps at a faster rate than otherwise.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. It makes you think of other ways, right? Like what else am I not thinking about? Another who, not how, right? Like what else can I do here, and how can, work better now help me? So I mean, I think that's the next step.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're ready to help when you're ready. Thanks for sharing that. By the way, I had the same experience, which is really what ultimately led to the founding of the company. When I finally got an assistant 10 or 11 years ago, it changed my life. And I was happier too, because I had not only more time to work on high impact activities in the business, but more time personally too. Yeah. So I'm glad you had that experience, and I'm glad I'm really thrilled that we're a part of it. What do you like to do when you're not working?
So my side job is developing property for myself. I have two passions. It's really land development. I acquired some land in the Berkshires in Massachusetts, and really just to me, like it's a one of those long-term projects. There's no rush behind it. I don't need to do it, but it's just one of those things. Every year, I push it forward a little bit, very long term, in 10 years, 15 years, I'm hoping that it's going to be this idyllic, wilderness retreat. So just the idea of creating something slowly over time. And as I grow as a person too, it's sort of like a long-term art project is how I'm thinking of it. And it somewhat ties to my passion of landscaping and of nature. I love gardening. I love working outside. I don't grow any vegetables, but I love landscaping. And then of course I spend a lot of time going to soccer games for my kids, fencing tournaments, anything revolving my kids and the stuff they've got going on. So, really just watching them, grow up and become amazing, more amazing people is a huge part of what we do. I'm, tremendous family man and just, love that lifestyle.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. And thanks so much for joining us today and sharing all of your thoughts. Where can people find out more about you and about Greenlight?
I mean, I think the best place is our website. We're still working through the other, ways through whether it's, Instagram, LinkedIn, or others, but really our website is what we've spent the most time sort of creating so that people can hear and see everything that we've done. And also as a way to reach out to us, please go to www.gcm-nyc.com.
Thanks for joining us today, and thanks to our community for watching. And we'll see everybody soon.
Thanks, Rob.